Hello, I'm Eric Mott, founder and head of growth at CreatorBase here in the San Francisco Silicon Valley area. And for today's Creator Talk, I'm joined by Blaine Mathieu. He's a former Gartner analyst, C-suite leader of more than 20 years, and now a new business book author with The River Doesn't Wait. Blaine, who is your book for, and what outcome will they achieve by taking a few hours to dive in, jot down some ideas, and reflect on their next move?
Well, obviously, senior executives in medium to large size enterprises today are being overwhelmed in some cases by what I call a surge of AI, and especially agentic AI. What's happening there, and the CIOs and CTOs of the world are grabbing onto this and trying to work with it from a technical perspective. But non-technical senior executives are being asked by their boards, what are you doing about this? Their colleagues, and being faced by a market that is changing faster than ever before. So I wrote this book to really help that, again, non-technical C-suite or senior executive try to deal with what I call the surge of agentic AI that is now happening in organizations.
And then, thinking about the second half of 2026, and just all the, AI activity and the trends that are happening, and they seem to be happening faster and faster. Why in the second half is this book critical to kind of get your head around?
Well, I use the analogy throughout the book of this river that you're navigating your organization through. And the current that flows in that river is the current of agentic AI. There are sometimes surges in that current which open up the possibility to do things differently or maybe open up potential threats to the organization. So learning how to strategically navigate those surges is really critical. And as we've seen, the force of that river, the force of that current, and the pace at which these surges are happening is only increasing. It's not
Yeah.
abating, it's increasing. Second half will be much faster than the first half of 2026 was, and I fully expect 2027 will continue that. So, strategic thinking in organizations has always fundamentally been about change management. It's how do you deal with the constant pace of change, both internally and externally. And AI, and especially now agentic AI, is driving that pace faster than ever before. So that's why it's important now.
You just mentioned change management. Totally agree. I feel like after reading the pre-release, which I got through, pretty quickly, and it's a great read. Um, you have to be an expert at change management. You have to drive change management if you're, a leader. If you're, a team member, it's something that if you're not great at, you might want to get comfortable with. And of course, all the just managing of the human side of it, the stress, well, what's coming next, and how do I kind of adjust? How can readers co-create outcomes that matter with their organizations going into 2027? I know you had some
Yeah.
great guides in the book. Tell us more about what we can do.
Well, before I address that question, I just want to say about your comment about a quick read. I specifically wrote this book so an executive could read it on a 3 hour airplane ride. So there's nothing worse than a 600-page business book that, frankly, in many cases, is a lot of filler. I think you'll see there's very little filler in this book. We just get right down to it. Now, to your question about what do we do about it, there is a section in the book and on the website as well that I think we'll talk about that is basically an action guide or a discussion guide that a senior leader could use with their team or their colleagues to help both do two things. I call reading the river, so understanding what your current position is, how fast the water is moving, and then figuring out how to react to that, what to do, how to reposition your organization or adjust the settings that I talk about in some detail in the book. So I provide that information in a lot of detail, but I think the most important takeaway at a high level is being successful in this new era is not about setting a position. It's about continuous navigation. And figuring
Mm.
out how to do that and do that effectively is, I think, one of the core elements of the book. And I provide a fair bit of detail on how specifically to do that.
And where can people go to get all that great information?
Well, the best place to get started is the book's website, riverdoesn'twait.com. From there, you can find a high level overview of the core methodology and framework itself, sort of a summary of what you'd get out of the book. You will find the discussion and collaboration guide that I talked about a couple of minutes ago. And I think also, as importantly, you can sign up for the monthly briefing that I'm going to be putting out. Totally free, nothing, no real registration required other than your email address. Because, like you discussed, Eric, the space is moving so fast. I was, a little bit concerned that writing something in book format might limit the
You're right.
ability to always keep up with the latest surges and advances that we talked about. So now I have a monthly briefing that's a companion to the book and will help you and your organization ensure you don't miss one of those critical surges in the flow of agentic AI, but without being overwhelmed by the just tons of content that is being produced every day on the latest model release or
Yeah.
other factors that don't really affect you strategically.